don't care about no Mother's Day, none of that shit.
This caption says this man invited his whole family out to eat just to say his BM, his baby mama, got to split the bill with him, and the bill was $600.
That's what you want to do. It's not my idea. I'm gonna pay for everything I have. This is your family. What you gonna do if I walk out? What you gonna do if I walk out? Don't walk out. Hey, I don't got no money. I only got $20, bro. Don't touch me. I only got $20.
I only got $20. I only got $20. What were you thinking?
Listen on me. I ain't got this. I'm finna go. I don't give a damn. That's on you.
Embarrassing. Just embarrassing.
All right, there you go. Listen, all this makes sense to me, right? You're watching a man and a woman who prepared for this family gathering and meal the way they prepared for their family, poorly. Everything's a reflection of somebody's mindset and the way they look at life. So I'm not surprised. Most men that I know who I associate with would in no way invite an entire family out to have dinner and only have $20 to their name. Why would you do that? And it sounds like the majority of the family is his. And this is her children's father here. All this makes sense to me. When people say things like marry before you carry, or make sure that you make wise decisions before you take on the responsibility of most things that are going to destroy you in life, expenses, debts, children, it's because they want you to avoid situations like this, right? It all makes sense. You keep living and you realize why it's so important to be careful as a man to make sure you're not broke. Because I know there's going to be some guy who's going to figure out a way to justify the man's behavior. He's in the wrong, 100%. I'm really convinced that most people in this world, and it's very, very unfortunate that it is like this, I'm really convinced that most people in this world need extreme pain, and I mean extreme pain, to finally see the truth for what it is. And sometimes they still will blame everybody else. If he invited these people over to have this meal, he's in the wrong. And if he only has $20 to his name on top of all that, he's more in the wrong than she is. This is embarrassing. This is a situation that I'm not surprised that they're in. It all makes sense to me. Let's read a few of these comments, see what the people have to say. Top commenter says, I'm curious why the other adults can't pay for their own meal. Well, it sounds like he invited people to actually have a meal that he was going to pay for. That's what it sounds like. Now, there is a possibility that maybe he didn't communicate that, and that's something that she randomly expected, at which point this would totally change everything, right? This chick here says, wants to split the bill, but only has $20. Hell no. Here's somebody else who says, be careful who you have kids with. Exactly. This person says, you can say that again. It says, goes both ways too. It does. Goes both ways. You can be angry on the side of experience of being a woman in any situation as a single mom. And you can also be a man who's dealing with hell. None of them are having a good time. Somebody else who says his mama's sitting there and she's not saying anything. That tells me all I need to know about how he was raised. Ain't no way. Yeah. Makes sense. Probably no father in the household. And her son, she can't tell him shit. And now you have the product of this. You know, no one gets any joy or benefits anything at all from trying to convince people to drink coffee. You just don't. You don't. People get so offended when you try to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. Maybe you should go a different path. Maybe that's enough kids for now. But at the end, you just are trying to save them from more suffering and pain. Here's somebody else who says, why can't his family pay for their own meals? I can only assume once again that this is probably a single mother household. I didn't see any. Let's see. I'm going to watch. Are there any men here? This commenter says, I would get up and pay for my meal only and walk off to never speak to him no more. The problem with this statement is you are going to speak to him. Why? Because you gave him the greatest gift you could give him, which is your womb. He's there to stay forever. Unless you're going to do what some women do, is do everything in your power to paint him as the villain, cut him off so that he's never involved in the children's life, which is not something I would suggest. But he's there to stay. I sometimes don't understand how people don't realize that once you just let anybody get you pregnant, and they are somebody who is problematic, not mature enough, their life reflects chaos, you've now chosen to marry yourself. Because I believe having a child with somebody, even without the legal papers, is a form of parental marriage. Parental marriage lasts longer than most marriages today. I don't think people understand the gravity of the situation enough. Next comment here says, loud announcement, everybody pay for their own food. Here's somebody else that says, so everyone else sitting at the table isn't embarrassed they're not even paying? There are people who have no shame. If you have no shame and you're ashamed by nothing, and and you can switch up like this after inviting people over, then that's on you, right? So I think what that comment they're saying is, aren't they embarrassed of what's going on, and wouldn't they speak up? I would probably speak up out of sheer embarrassment. You can't be around people who have no embarrassment whatsoever. You just can't. You just can't. Guys, of course, I'm curious to know what you think. Comment down below. To my currently engaged or soon to be married men, maybe you're proposing soon. If you need a prenuptial agreement but don't know where to start, remember, fathershaverights.com helps you before you hire your attorney. Our guide teaches you how to get a solid and legally binding prenuptial agreement. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.